Redditors who stayed awake for more than 24 hours straight. Why did you do it and what happened? Spent the night doing some stuff with my crush in her college dorm. We took things somewhat slow so we didn't do all the stuff that first night. As such, things never really ended. We just made out for hours and pretended to watch some movies on her laptop in her bunk cubby. The best of Will Ferrell and Ever After. It was actually pretty great and memorable. It was a strange phenomenon to realize the sun was coming up before either of us had fallen asleep. Interesting how easy my mind is trained to believe a day ends when it's dark and I close my eyes. I finally fell asleep for 10 minutes while she got ready in the morning. She told me we couldn't sleep yet, then promptly laid flat on top of me face to face and immediately fell asleep as well. 10 minutes later we went to breakfast and church. I'm not a church guy and I'm liable to fall asleep in there when I've had a full night's rest. So working off of 10 minutes of sleep seemed like a disaster waiting to happen. But I really liked this girl, so I fought my fatigue like it was a final boss battle. I made it, largely by focusing on a guy's really nice watch ahead of me. I created a storyline for him, how he got to this point in his life, where he met his wife, etc. Then the church gave me a gift bag full of crackers and a church music CD for being a first-time visitor. We decided to date and then I drove home. This seemed really wholesome, made my heart smile. Had a bet with a friend in high school to see who could stay up the longest. I won after staying up for 3 days. I would not recommend it. I stayed up roughly 33 hours straight performing emergency maintenance on a nuclear reactor. It's not as harrowing as it sounds. I was part of the reactor controls group on a US Navy submarine. One of the control rod height detectors failed, so we'd raise the rods to start up the reactor, but one would show us still sitting on the bottom. Not good. As small a problem as it was, it takes a long time to dismantle everything the proper way, replace the part, then put it all back the proper way. Plus, we under a time crunch to get out to sea. We made it. It's not as harrowing as it sounds. Good, I can finally stop cutting all those nuclear technicians I know slack. I work 2 jobs. One of them is an hour away from my house, so I have to be up at 4:15. The other one is, on occasion, an overnight. I often pick up a shift right before the overnight as well, so I end up working for 26 hours. Does not include the 2 hours or so I spend traveling. Families are expensive. It really bums me out that people have to do this. You deserve your family and a life. Was completing a group assignment at university a few months back that was due the following morning. By 6 AM it was literally taking me about 5 minutes to read a few lines of text because I couldn't focus. This was me. I know exactly how you felt. It was like the brain functions which can usually be successfully completed in 1 second took 3 seconds to process. Extrapolate that over the course of writing a paragraph and it's like you're trying to clean the bathroom floor using a toothbrush. I stayed awake for 50+ hours. When the hospital called and told me my father won't survive the weekend because of his multiple myeloma, I rushed to the hospital Friday evening and didn't sleep until Monday morning after he died. It was a crap weekend, to be honest. I'm not doing too good actually. I'm in therapy because of borderline depression, but in the last couple of days I didn't feel good at all. What sucks most is that he died on my 19th birthday. My birthday will never be the same, but again, I'm sure it will be better in the future. Sorry. I had class on a Friday. Stayed out all night with friends that night. Halo 3 had just come out, so of course we stayed up all night playing that. Then Saturday morning I had to go to rehearsal for a musical. I was so out of it and lethargic, but I won't do it again unless it's very important. Halo 3 nights are the best. I missed the launch for H3, but stayed up all night playing through Reach. Walking across campus. 6 AM. Couldn't figure out who the frick was singing Christmas carols. Seriously, it's March. Butthole. Me. It was me singing. Welp. That was college. Usually 24 hours no sleep was nothing, but months of 1-3 hours of sleep a night really caused problems. They had to close the computer labs at night purely so the animators would sleep, but I think in the end we just prolonged our suffering. Had a competition on with some friends to see who could stay awake the longest in university. I won. 36 hours. Though you could argue the real winner is the first person to go, because it's pure heck. Around the 30h mark I sort of went crazy. Kinda felt like I was drunk. Around the 30h mark I sort of went crazy. Kinda felt like I was drunk. You were at uni. Be honest, you were drunk. 60 hours straight, while deployed. Not like some big, horrible thing happened. Just lots and lots of little, mundane things that couldn't wait. Not enough manpower, and a whole lot of poor planning. Final semester of college. I had to finish all my artwork for my senior show. Managed to finish 14 paintings in 7 days, thanks to massive amounts of coffee. Had to pull several all-nighters because I still had other homework to do. Got A's and B's in all my classes that semester. I was proud. I hallucinated a lot, and I have some holes in my memory. I remember tears streaming down my face for no reason, maniacal laughing, and also a lot of not remembering how I got from point A to point B. With the hallucinations, I remember seeing little green zebras everywhere, like no bigger than the size of a coffee mug, and they kept walking in dangerous precarious areas, tops of door frames, the edge of the clock, etc. I wasn't so worried at the time that I was hallucinating. Rather, I was worried that the hallucinations were going to hurt themselves. Once my show was up and I was caught up on my schoolwork, I slept for 18 hours. It was amazing. Dang. Honestly, that sounds amazing. I do it because I don't wanna sleep. After I pass 26ish hours, I kinda get euphoric, and time either zooms by in a flash or it takes seemingly forever. Either way, it's a weird experience. Wasn't all that exciting. One summer when I was about 17, I regularly stayed up until sunrise and only went to bed after that. One time I found myself quite awake in the morning and simply decided to go on with my day as if I just woke up. It was fine. I can attest to this. If you get consistent sleep most of the time, taking a 24-hour day can be totally workable. When I was 13, I stayed up for over 72 hours playing Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. I'd rented it from Hollywood Video and only had it for 5 days. It was summer vacation, so I basically just played the game for 3 days straight because I wanted to beat it before I had to give it back. I did actually try to sleep, because I was exhausted, but the game was so fun and I was so excited to play that I was actually unable to sleep. On the last day, it was my friend's birthday sleepover, so I went to her house. I kept trying to use Link's tools in real life, like his spyglass, and was convinced the movie we were watching, the original version of the Eye, was all CG. I slept hard that night, but I used to regularly stay up forever when I was a kid and teenager. Even on school nights, I'd wait for my parents to go to bed and I'd sneak down to the basement to use the computer, or I'd play video games in my room. Can't barely stay up 16 hours now that I'm an adult. I did eventually beat the game later that summer after I bought it. I beat it a second time a while later. Might pick it up again soon and beat it a third time. Fantastic freaking game. Didn't get enough love when it came out. Everyone complained that it was too cartoony, but thanks to that, it aged really well. Had to complete a complicated PCB layout for a customer. Stayed up for around 28 hours on sugar and caffeine. Can't recommend. The solder fumes don't help either. A few years ago, worked at a cafe nightclub, went first, second and third shift on Saturday and Sunday, and had to go to my uni city Monday morning. When I arrived at 12 PM at Monday, fell asleep and woke up Tuesday at 7 PM. Coffee and a few Red Bulls did the trick. Not 24, but 72. A few months ago I started to skip sleep the day before exams. Anxiety, insomnia. Whenever I skipped a night purposefully before, I handled it great. No fatigue. Caffeine wasn't an accessory either, so I didn't worry too much about it. I have always had a bad time regarding examinations, and this is the last year before university, so I just went with it. Even though I studied if I really could not sleep, my results went down. These are the ones that help you choose a career you want, so I was heavily depressed. Then the finals came and, well, I'm okay now, though. I moved my studying station to the basement and now everything is fine again. My final exam is in 3 days, so that's gonna be fun. Good luck. Ran into an old friend who I haven't seen in years. Stayed up drinking, decided to stay up until the liquor stores opened, oh crap, Simpsons movie, let's go see it, bring the beers, that scene where Homer is hallucinating about the Inuit woman, cinemasing JPG, wake up to cops with their flashlights in my eyes, empty theater, we passed out, friends got a death grip on his beer, me hands free, both handcuffed and escorted out of the theater, what made you think this was a good idea? I didn't. Well, we can't charge you for public drinking because technically the beer wasn't in your hand, so we can't prove it was yours. Your friend on the other hand, got off scot-free, friend dinged with public intoxication fine. I went into labor. Contractions started at 3 AM. Nothing too bad, but I was too anxious sleep. Finally had an epidural at 7 AM. 28 hours later, the next day due to no sleep and pure exhaustion. Slept for 15-20 minutes at a time here and there until my daughter was born at 10:30 PM. 40 plus hours later, she's 19 months old now and I still haven't slept. All worth it, she's the best. Saving my friend's life. He had just gotten new muscle relaxants for a chronic pain issue and they reacted with his sleeping pills. Not being able to wake someone up while they're apneaing is one of the scariest things ever. 24 hours isn't really a huge deal for most people. Would do it fairly often back in college. Generally because of some combination of parties, drugs, crazy work schedules, and imminent due dates. Gets way tougher when you pass 36 hours. Generally that's when you're going into your second night awake. Yee. So far I can mostly do 24H with no issue, as long as I am being active, but at 36H, things start taking a turn for the worse. I did that twice in the last 3 days. What happened? Not much, really. No fancy fairies or elves came to visit unfortunately. I did however sleep all afternoon. Navy. I was working 20-hour shifts one underway period for about 6 weeks straight. Towards the end of that near 6-week period, we had a casualty. Navy vernacular that also means something broke. Instead of hurt person, I missed my 4-hour, which was really more like a 2-hour, sleep period. By the end of the second shift, I literally fell asleep with my eyes open. No crap, I didn't even know it. One of my coworkers nudged me and said, "Hey man, you okay?" And I was totally dumbfounded. He thought I was looking at him and listening to him, and all I was doing was dozing and dreaming about sleeping in my squalid, tiny bunk. I dreamt about sleeping a lot during that time. Also, I think I pretty much destroyed my digestive system with copious amounts of coffee. 3-day long party in college. At 24 hours I was crashing, but coffee kept me going. At 36 hours I hit overtired and suddenly had a ton of energy. At 48 hours I was staying awake mostly for the hallucinations. At 72 hours I finally keeled over. Woke up 4 hours later feeling just fine. That's just not healthy. Rip short-term memory. For a developing contest in my uni, it was awesome. 36H straight, alongside 199 other people in team of 6. Everyone sharing the same passion. I can tell you guys, this was really awesome. My best was when I worked 2.5 days without a break. About 12 years ago, installed some machinery at 2 local car producers. Coffee was how I stayed awake. I didn't want to work on Christmas Day, so needed to get it finished before. I was project manager, helped welding, painting and programming some robots and driving between the 2 companies and my workplace. Man, I love coffee. Regularly did this when we were younger, just playing video games. The only reason we would eventually go to bed was parents were getting up. If they were away on holidays we would usually just stay awake until we couldn't. Usually 36-48 hours. Nothing happened except we got much more hours of games played. A Daryl binge. Stayed up arguing with my girlfriend and not eating for more than 48 hours. Late at night I would sit in my bed and hallucinate out of the corner of my eyes. Felt like a walking zombie. Definitely happy those days are behind me. In college full time. Also worked a full-time night shift job, a part-time day shift job, and a third shift job an hour and a half away on the weekends. Also active in church, twice Sundays and once Wednesday night. plus choir practice and Saturday visitation. Some weekends I didn't sleep between Thursday night and Monday night. Couldn't do it now if I tried. Doing a CMC project I had spaced on. Stayed up around 44 hours completing it. After 30 I was seeing some intense, for not being on any drugs, open eye visuals and became very paranoid. After I turned it in I slept 19 hours after that. When I was younger I would have a lot of trouble sleeping. I have anxiety problems, and before I learned to more or less control it I could stay up for days at a time. I think my record is 4 days straight, but after so long awake you kinda stop keeping track of time because it's not really a thing anymore. Things get weird. Everything slows down while still moving fast, and that doesn't even make sense. It almost feels like you're in a different dimension. There was a time in my life where I drank a lot. I would drink myself to sleep to pass out for a few hours, and this was the only sleep I got. This lasted for about a month. Crappy thing about anxiety is that it makes it hard to sleep. Crappy thing about lack of sleep is that it makes you more anxious. I got caught in that loop for a month and it was heck. My mom gave me one of her anxiety pills and I went home and slept for about 13 hours straight and it seemed to pull me out of that loop. Doing it right now. Currently at 24 exactly actually lol. Got extremely drunk last night and I get insomnia when I drink. So here I am. 48 hours wants to steal sand for a frat beach party. Drove down to the shore in the middle of the night. Didn't sleep that night. Needed more so drive down the next night on no sleep. I kept nodding out on the way back. Co-pilot had to keep me awake. He didn't have a license. Stayed awake for about 53 hours straight for work. The point is it did not end there. Slept about 2 hours then stayed awake for another 15 hours. Then 3 hours of sleep then another 15 hours or so. So total 88 hours with only 5 hours of sleep. It was terrible, and what happened next is I slept 32 hours in a row. Might have woken up to pee and drink at some point but I can't be sure, as it happened a bunch of times that I wake up, do something, then go back to sleep, and wake up again with no recollection of doing said thing. I drove 12 hours for my sister's wedding but had to be back the next day to start summer school at the university. Don't ask why I drove. It was a bad idea. I drove all night. I was good for my first class. I had pumped myself full of caffeine. The notes from my second class were okay until I fell asleep writing them. There was that gentle slope of writing trailing off and down the page until it was just a line. I woke up to a very angry professor staring at me in an empty room. In my day in the army we would rotate staff and CQ, charge of quarters, duty which was a 24-hour shift and falling asleep could get you seriously punished. Strangest thing I noticed was around 2-4 am. Your body and mind struggle then magically pep up by 5 or 5:30 when you know it's close to the rest of the unit being up and starting their day. The hardest and strangest thing for me personally was temperature regulation during those hours of 2-4. Always froze my butt off. There must be something to those hours because I agree completely and have experienced it myself. I work a shift that rotates to nights every month or so and I'll tell anyone I train 2 to 4 is a weird zone of exhaustion and if you make it through that you're good. I can't figure it out. It's not like anything really changes. Closest I can make out is maybe it's a digestion thing. It was during early 20s, related to work, and I wanted to push my limits and see how many hours I can spend without sleep. So I worked 38 hours on coffee and energy drinks. Experience was not that exciting. Slept a lot after that, breaking sleeping cycle. Last time it was to watch WrestleMania live. I'm in the UK, so that entails staying up till like 6 am, and then I had to get back from my friend's place to my flat. Insomnia and ADHD. Some of my ADHD symptoms are actually eased by lack of sleep. The crash afterward is not worth it though. A flight to Australia when I was 14. I spent the flight playing on the SNES in the seat front. Singapore Airlines 1997. When we arrived in Australia apparently I had a fit and passed out and was asleep for about 36 hours. Drugs and the desire to see how long I could make it. 8 days. Started to hallucinate and become extremely paranoid. Don't remember a lot of it. Made some weird remarks to those around me though. Because we were doing emergency training on board a ship, we stayed awake for 24 hours. Nothing happened. Then I slept for 6 hours and started my shift. Lucky that you got 6 hours before the shift. The first time, I wanted to get the server first achievement for a dwarf at max level for Wrath of the Lich King. The second time, I was playing Fallout New Vegas. The third time, I was playing Skyrim. The fourth time, I was playing Fallout 4. Stayed up late on a Friday, into Saturday, and was about to sleep when the water broke. After a call to the after hours nurse, we drove to the hospital in the middle of the night. Spent the rest of Saturday in the labor and delivery room. Gave birth on Saturday evening. I would do it about 3 times a month at my old job. We worked a rotating shift of 2 days, 2 nights, 2 graves, then 4 days off. I like to stay up after the final grave shift to get back to a regular day schedule. I did it to see what would happen. I walked to the park, saw a bird, and it startled me so much my heart almost leapt out of my chest. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.